So here I am under a DS, and I'm going to show you how to do the oil change. This, of course, I have a hoist, which makes life a lot easier, but you can do this under jacks and axle stands. It's just a bit of a pain when you have to scrabble under the car. So I've got my container already aligned up, and I'm going to undo the sump plug. So it's a 21mm socket, which is the same as a spark plug. And although I'm using a big breaker bar here, it's only just once it's cracked off, you should be able to do it by hand. And this will make a bit of a splash. And make sure you catch the bolt and the washer, because you don't really want to drop that. So it's quite acceptable to undo the sump plug. Apparently there's a lot of talk on the net saying you don't do it, but you can get away with not doing it, but I don't see why. Citroen put the sump plug there for a reason, so I suggest you use it. Whilst this is draining, I would anneal the washer, or if you have a new one, that's fair enough to use one. But you can anneal the solid copper washers which are on the sump plugs. And the reason you anneal them is that as copper is compressed when it's used, it goes hard and therefore brittle. And you can anneal this to make it soft again, so it will then seal. And it's very simple to do. So I'm showing you how to anneal the copper washer that's used for sealing the sump plug bolt. So you take a little piece of wire with a hook on it, and you light up your blowtorch. And all you need to do is to warm this up until it reaches a cherry red colour. Now in this instance, you're going to go above cherry red, it will probably go orange like that, but that's perfectly fine. And you don't have to quench it, i.e. get it cool immediately. You can let it cool down, but it will still be annealed, but it's obviously much quicker just to put it in water, or in my case, oil, and then you can use it immediately. So I'll just go and do that. When you've got the sump plug off, you'll find that it's hollow, and crud from the engine will collect in there, so you need to clean it out. You can clean it out either in a wash tank or with petrol or whatever, but it's good practice just to clean it right out. So whilst the oil is nearly dripped out, and I have my annealed washer, doesn't matter if you've still got a couple of drips left, because I'm going to take the oil filter cover off, but the majority of the oil is now out of the sump. So screw that up by hand, and then when you're coming to tighten it, it doesn't need to be super tight, but you do need to crush the washer slightly. So that is now nipped up there, and with my breaker bar, which is far too big for the job, but makes it easy, that is sufficient. Now I know I've done that by feel because I've been doing it for a while. I couldn't tell you what torque it is, but it's not particularly high, and there probably is a specification. And now I'm just going to top up the oil. So take off the oil cap, and it's best if you use a funnel. Now the oil we're going to pour in here, the engine was designed to take 20/50, and that is the oil which you can use if you get it, but you can also use modern equivalent. I use a semi-synthetic 1040, which, if you'll see on the Citroen, will specify for hot countries, but given that there is a vast improvement in modern oils, I have found no issues with using the oil. Right, so that's about 4.5 litres, and the engine stood for a little while to settle, and we're now going to check the oil level on the dipstick. And what we have here, I don't know if your camera can see it, but the level is about halfway up. You'll see these two little marks on the dipstick, and that is the full level, and that is the low level. And the difference between the two equates to 1 litre of oil. So given that where we are, we need another ½ litre of oil. So we'll wipe that and put the oil dipstick back in, and add another ½ litre of oil. Then of course we have to wait a little while the oil gets down to the bottom of the sump before we recheck the level. And check it again. There we go. Mark just at the top of the level, just where it needs to be. So that is the oil done, oil change done. All you need to do now is put the cap back on. Probably a good idea not to forget that. Job done.